Welcome to Beginning Python Programming in 7 Days. So we're going to teach you Python programming in 7 days. Very easy. So this is day 1. We have 4 videos for you, and it's really about getting familiar with what Python is, how we can create some programs, and generally just operating and being comfortable in Python. So let's get started. In this section, we're going to take a look at Python, assuming that you have no Python experience, and we're going to take 4 steps to introduce you to Python, right? The 4 steps are, number 1, installing Python and the code editor, getting familiar with the command line, writing and running your first Python program, and also understanding the basic syntax. So in this video, we're going to focus on installing Python and the code editor so that we can get started with using Python. In this video, we're going to take a look at number 1, what is Python? Number 2, how do we get started with Python? And how do we create Python code? Let's go in and take a look. So this is the Python homepage, python.org. Python is a fairly old language. It's developed by this guy called Guido van Rossum. It's a very quick and high-level programming language that allows you to work quickly and integrate systems effectively. I actually really like the way Python introduces Python. If we go into the docs and look at the getting started with Python, the rationale for anybody looking to learn Python is it's a very easy way for you to automate what you do on a day-to-day basis, assuming that you work with computers, which I think it's fair to say most of us do at this day and age. And so Python is very popular because it's very simple, it's very high level, it doesn't take a lot of code to do something quite complicated and quite powerful. It's also famous and well used recently because it has very good support for operations and libraries in data science. So that means that a lot of people who are not from a programming background, but rather scientists and data analysts, they come to the world of Python and start using that. So that's also contributes to why Python is a very popular language nowadays. So how do we get started with Python? So obviously, going through the documentation is a very good way to do this. One of the things you need to know about Python is it's unfortunately splits into 2 versions. So there is Python 3, which I think the latest version is 3.7. And there's Python 2, which the latest version is 2.7.4. And Python 2 is no longer being developed, and I think it's going to be decommissioned or not supported anymore in 18 months or something. However, because Python 2 has been developed for a long time, it's very robust, and it has been deployed in many enterprise situations. So if you're using Python at work and using the version from work, very likely that you're using Python 2. Fortunately, the only difference that really matters is the way the print statement, as in how you put things on screen. That's the only big difference. There are all the smaller differences. You rarely encounter that and not notice immediately. So fairly easy and painless transition from Python 2 to 3. In this course, we're going to teach Python 3 simply because that's where the future is heading. And if we're starting a new Python course, Python 3 is my choice to do this. As you can see in python.org, you can actually read about whether you should do Python 2 or 3. I think it really depends on your circumstances, but in short, Python 2 is the old version, Python 3 is the present and the future, so you should learn Python 3. The only difference, again, that is like less language related but more performance related is 2.7 is still faster than 3.6. There's nothing you can do about that. It's based on how the languages are written and compiled and designed. But I think, according to my sources, 3.8 is when this speed difference disappears. But it's unlikely that, as a beginner, you'll care about this. So let's focus on getting you up to speed with Python, and we can go from there. So how do we get started with Python? Very easy. If you're in Windows, which most likely you are, go to winpython.github.io. So this is where I am currently. WinPython is a Python build for Windows, and the good thing about WinPython is it's standalone. So what you need to do, download it, extract it on your computer, and all the things that are related to Python is now within one directory in your Windows computer that you can just run from that directory. It doesn't matter what else you have in your computer. It doesn't matter what you do to the Python installation. If you're done with it and you decide, that's it, Python is out of my life now, you can delete the folder and everything will be gone cleanly. So I really like WinPython, firstly because it allows you to put everything in one folder, and secondly because it's very easy to then upgrade WinPythons from here on out. And the third reason why WinPython is great is because you can install it in, for example, your work computer, because it doesn't need any admin privileges or anything. Literally download it, extract it, and you're good to go. So here you can see that recent releases, there's WinPython 3.5, 3.6, 3.7. So now that corresponds to the Python version. So as I said before, there's Python 3. Python 3 then subdivides into smaller versions. 3.6.5 is probably, that's the most recent stable release, so we should use that. So this guy here, and depending on your machine, which is most likely 64-bit, we can use WinPython 3.6.5. So go ahead, click download, and you would be guided to the SourceForge page, and obviously we download this guy. Lots of downloads, 3,000 downloads a week. Download this guy. We click that, then in the next screen I'll just jump to what happens when we install WinPython. After we've installed WinPython, this is actually a screenshot of this. If you open the WinPython directory that you have installed it to, you can see a few folders. We don't really need to worry that for now. There is an IDE, the Python GUI.x. There's the Qt console. Both of these you don't really need to care about. Jupyter Notebook is the one that you want to think about. We're going to take a look at this later in the course, but basically Jupyter Notebook allows you to have Python code, text, and diagrams in one page, and that allows you to iterate very quickly on data science applications. Spider is a way for you to edit the code and run it, and WinPython PowerShell prompt is the one that we use the most, where we start a command line and use the command line to execute Python scripts and also test out smaller commands. So WinPython PowerShell prompt is basically just your Windows PowerShell, but with the WinPython in it. So what you can do with the Windows PowerShell, don't worry if you haven't heard of what that is. WinPython PowerShell is basically an interface between you and Python, and we're going to see later on how that will work in the next video. So the last thing I want to talk about is where should we edit Python code. So the answer is very simple. Any text editor would do. So we can use Notepad, and if you are slightly more fancy, we can use Atom, which is highlighted Python editor. So let me show you how that looks like. So this is Atom. You can find it at atom.io. Very big download button. It already knows which operating system you are in. And the biggest and best feature of Atom is it highlights the syntax for you. So when you're using Python, here's JavaScript. If you're using Python, it actually colors the words according to what Python feature you're using. So it's very good for you to remember or notice what you're doing by the color code, because the text editor itself understands Python, and that makes you much more productive. And that's all there is to it. So we've just learned what is Python, how do I get started with Python using WinPython, and how do I create Python code, which is any good old text editor, or if we're more fancy, we can use Atom. In the next video, I'm going to talk about the command line and getting familiar with the command line. I'll see you guys later.